Hey, welcome back to the Disney Plus Everyday Challenge, and today we have the Beatles' Let It Be. At first, I was kind of curious as to whether this was something new or the original 1970 documentary. It's kind of both, but in just a slight way. It does have a 2024 date on it, even though it is from 1970. The bulk of this is an hour and 29 minutes long, by the way. The bulk of it is the original documentary, but it is prefaced by an interview, a conversation between Peter Jackson and Michael Lindsay-Hogg, the director of the original documentary. That was filmed in 1969-ish, culminating in the famous rooftop performance in London on top of the Apple One, not Apple that we know now, that the original studio that belonged to the Beatles in downtown London. This culminates in that concert that would eventually be known as their final concert. Even at that time, they did not realize that that would be their final performance together. I'm getting ahead of myself. The very beginning of this has Peter Jackson, from Lord of the Rings and everything else. He also did a 3-part documentary it's also on Disney Plus, called Get Back, which unearthed tons and tons and tons of new footage, or old footage, that was basically, I think, cut from what Let It Be became. It's in this hour and a half. Well, they take a few minutes at the beginning having a conversation, which really looks like they're not in the same room. I get the feeling that they might have done like a remote kind of thing. I don't know. It's just really stiff in how it's cut. I don't know. It's probably like they did a Zoom call and made it look like they were in the same room having a conversation. It is not the case. More than likely. It just seems like for a director, he'd have a little bit more control over the look and feel of how they would interact. Doesn't matter. Either way, we get a sort of a foundation for this upgrade. It looks great. It sounds great. I don't know if anybody has the original VHS tape or a previous version of this, or saw it in theaters in 1970, but it looks and sounds great. This is the kind of thing, if you're a Beatles fan, you're going to want to turn it up loud. Especially the last 25 minutes. Even though they did a 42-minute performance, you only get the last 25 minutes. There's credits at the end, of course. 20 plus minutes of their performance on the rooftop, intercut with the reactions from the crowd below as the band begins, and suddenly crowds begin to form and going, what is going on the roof up there? That sounds like the Beatles. And those who were there in that time to witness that moment, witnessed history. Yes, I'm going to say this. They are the greatest rock band of all time. The Rolling Stones might have a problem with that. But historically, in this capturing a moment in time, not doing anything, not still grinding out albums, which, nothing against the Rolling Stones or anybody else who's still grinding out albums or performances in their 90s. I don't know. But the Beatles had the fortune, I guess, to say, we're done. Even though we're the biggest band in the world, we're done. And this movie, this original documentary, has the benefit of also being edited down to a point where you do not see too much of the conflict between the band, whereas Get Back, you get to see a lot more of it. You get to see the whole period of time in which George Harrison just quits, and everybody's like, what are we doing now? We're supposed to do a TV show or something. Yeah, that never happened. That's what all this was for. This whole, the rehearsals you see in the first half of this film, for about 45 minutes or so, is them just fiddling around. And for me, I love that kind of aspect, that behind the scenes, that fly on the wall. I want to be a time traveler who is an invisible ghost who nobody sees, and I want to be able to go to any point in history and just be a weird voyeur. But at least maybe with music. If you need to put rules on it here, Sam Beckett or whoever, the doctor, whatever, if you need to, let's just visit all the greatest moments in music history. I'll go down to all the way to Amadeus and Beethoven, all that stuff. But especially the Beatles, especially the formation, of them and so many other artists, and to see some of these iconic moments. I'd like to think that I have time traveled sometime in the future to come back to that past moment, and somewhere in this rooftop performance, I am invisibly witnessing history. So there's my fantasy, my afterlife. So I can't say the Beatles were my favorite band ever, but it's still, I know something good when I see it, and it's in this documentary also. Like I said, you get to see just sort of really strange, intimate moments. It shows these guys as men who love music. This is not just a showcase to say, hey, here's all the songs from our upcoming album, let's just grind through them. No, the first half of this thing is them just fiddling around, practicing things, sort of forming early versions of some songs, or playing with versions of songs they already made. This is after Sgt. Pepper. This is after Magical Music Mystery Tour. So what we have here in the making is not just Abbey Road, but of course Let It Be, which would be their final studio album. So you get a sneak peek as to what was happening in the formation of some of those songs. And other times, they're just playing shake, rattle, and roll. They're just jamming. Or they're doing really strange versions of their songs, sometimes in Spanish. Yeah, Paul apparently likes to do very, very Spanish-influenced versions of their songs and other stuff. It's just them getting goofy. And I realize that sometimes people think that these guys took themselves way too seriously. Yeah, sometimes. And they did not get along. The Angry Brothers, historically, between John and Paul, it's been well documented. They sometimes hated each other, and other times they so loved each other. But again, by the way, I'm not about to tell you that I know everything about the Beatles. There are a billion people out there, or more, who know more about the Beatles than I do. I am going only with my knowledge, and you can correct me about anything I've just said here in the comments. I don't care. It's fine, because, again, more than likely, you do know more about the Beatles than I do. I enjoy their music. I love the behind-the-scenes stuff that this film and Peter Jackson's Get Back and the upcoming Martin Scorsese Beatles 64 film next month is going to give us. There's a lot of Beatles stuff on Disney Plus, which is just, to me, strange, just weird. I don't know. But yeah, the piece de resistance, the big culmination of this film is obviously the performance on the rooftop, and I love the interaction of the police trying to figure out what to do. Yes, there's a very good chance. I don't know if they knew that they could get arrested for being up there, even if it was their property, for disturbing the peace. I don't know. Eventually, they did get shut down, but nicely. They just sort of said they had a few bobbies go up there, have talks with some of the people, and I think they just finished with Get Back, and it's a tremendous testament to their career, their creativity, their talented musicians. Not just, hey, you know what, we can make something sound really cool in a studio. I mean, honestly, understand that these guys had not performed in many years, probably since 1966 to 67. I'm not sure. Again, somebody knows better than I. And I can't say that they're the greatest live band ever either, because a lot of the times when when they were just playing cover songs back in the cave. Why can't I remember the name of the cave in Liverpool? It's something cave. See, I don't remember anything. The Cavern Club, sorry, Cavern Club. When they played back then, it was mostly just covers and things like that. And then they, Please Please Me, came out, and they're doing all these just traditional, just, I don't know, it's kind of old school, again, rock and roll. It wasn't overtly complex stuff, as people know. Love, Love Me Do, things like that. I guess it was just the approach of it all. And then again, there's people who have made documentaries about this documentary, about this moment, about these things. There's documentaries upon documentaries upon documentaries that are just over-examined throughout history. A guy named Chris Carter does a Breakfast with the Beatles thing like every week on the radio. Yes, radio exists still. And also probably a podcast somewhere. But it's the kind of thing where, there's the same songs are played over and over and over again. The people who love the Beatles don't care. I want to hear the same song I've heard a billion times before. And the history that I know backwards and forwards. I know some people who are pretty solid Beatles fans, including one who used to play in Paul McCartney's band. So, yeah. There's just so much interesting history with the band, and I love history, love music, and this hits all the buttons right here. I mean, that whole rooftop thing has been tried since, most notably U2 had done it in Los Angeles in 1987 on top of a liquor store at 7th and Main. Yeah, and they did it basically just shoot a music video. They played the song 4 times, plus like 4 other songs from their thing. And they did it so that they were prepared. They reinforced the roof beforehand. They put up a second generator just in case the power got cut by the police. And it was a little bit more dramatic than it was really made out to be. But it's this iconic moment here has attempted to be copied. And it honestly was just done to create a single song music video. And they didn't even use the audio for that U2 song from that performance. I would have loved to have been there at that time as well. These singular moments in history are just beautiful things to me, especially when it comes to music, because music affects all of us. I can't imagine anybody that's just like, music's okay. There's something there's something we connect ourselves to when it comes to music that connects to us through music. That none of us can fully explain. And no matter what you love, whether it's the Beatles, if you hate the Beatles, it doesn't matter. Something connects. But the Beatles connected with people around the world at a level that had been unseen in forever, except for Elvis, obviously. But like I was saying earlier, they may not be the best band in the world, mainly because all of their early performances had sound systems that were pretty much useless over top of it, because you could never hear them over top of the screaming of the girls. So the idea that these guys got to perform a song and nobody was screaming from the streets and you could hear them, and they got in trouble for the fact that somebody could hear them, is kind of cool. Their final show could actually be heard and was recorded on audio and film. And so, yeah, this is a piece of history. If you love music, if you love the Beatles, of course, you've already watched this. But if you didn't know it was on Disney Plus, well, here you go. Here you go. This is the kind of thing I could listen to on a loop. Even the stuff that's just them fiddling around in the studio, giving each other side eye and going, and just looking at George Harrison going, do I need to quit? They're so annoying. I don't know, because you get to see, it's not just focusing on Paul and John. There's moments you see George and Ringo working together on what's the song? Why can't I say that? I want to say the lyrics, but I'd rather be under the sea in an octopus's garden in the shade. Yeah, I'm a great singer. So yeah, this is Highly recommended. Yeah, obviously. Let's see what I recommend tomorrow. Let's pick tomorrow's episode. Randomly. 144. 144 correlates, if you've never seen this before, 144 correlates to a number that is in a spreadsheet that I have right here. And I'm going to show you that number in a moment. And 144 brings us back. The 130, late 130s and most of the 140s are all documentaries featuring Marvel Studios things. And, this is somewhat relevant considering Agatha All Along came out in October, but that's not been added to Disney Plus yet that I know of. And if it was, even so, I wouldn't be able to add it to the list until the new year, the next quarter. I update my list every quarter. Taking out the old stuff, adding in all the new stuff. Anyway, related to that, the thing that came before Agatha All Along is WandaVision. So we're going to be watching Marvel Studios Assembled, the making of WandaVision. Yep. So that should be fun. Again, I like behind-the-scenes stuff here, documentaries like this, and I love the documentaries about the stories I love in the Marvel Universe, so it should be fun to me. I don't know what you think, but... All right, so tomorrow, Marvel Studios Assembled, the making of WandaVision on the next Disney Plus Everyday Challenge. I'll see you back here tomorrow with that.